Okay, so once your knitting has reached the length that you're happy with and you want to stop, you need to know how to cast off. So I'll show you how to do that now. So to cast off, you're going to start by knitting a normal stitch, just like I showed you before. So you're just going to do a regular knit stitch, bringing the yarn round, pulling the needle and the yarn through, pulling it off. Now that's one stitch completed, you're going to do another stitch. Needle in, yarn round, pull through, slide off. Now you should have 2 stitches on your right hand needle. And what you're going to do is take the first stitch that you knitted and use your left hand needle just to get a hold of that stitch, and then actually pass it over the second stitch. So you're taking the first stitch and you're pulling it over the second one, and then sliding it off the end of the needle as you would a normal stitch, and that leaves you with 1 stitch on your right hand needle. The next step is to knit into the next stitch. Just knit as normal, knit the stitch, and you have 2 stitches on your right hand needle. Once again, you're going to take your left hand needle, put it through the first stitch on the right hand needle, and pull the second stitch through as if you were knitting. And what this has done is it's cast off the second stitch. I'm going to take some scissors and cut the long end of the yarn. Now you don't want to cut this too short because you might want to darn the ends of your knitting in later, so give yourself enough length that you can thread a sewing needle through it and darn it in. So let's just cut that, and then what we're going to do, we're going to pass this long end of yarn through the final stitch. So you can see there. You can actually use the needle to do this if you prefer, but I just use my fingers and I pass the long end of yarn through that stitch so that when we take it off the needle, it's created, you can see this is going to create a knot, and you just pull it tight, and there you go, that's your cast off edge. So the basic knit stitch that I've just shown you will create a piece of knitting that has this bar pattern along it, and it will have that pattern on both sides if you just use the knit stitch. This is called a garter stitch, and it's one of the most common knitting stitches. But we also have stocking stitch on this example piece that I made earlier, and with stocking stitch you can see these little V patterns on this side of the fabric. This is the right side of the fabric, so if you were making a jumper this would be the side that faced outwards, and on the other side you have that bar pattern from the knit stitches, and that's the wrong side. That would be the side on the inside of the jumper or the bottom of a blanket, you know, whatever you're using this stitch for. So I'm going to show you how to create the stocking stitch, and this is done by purling every other row. So as you can see on this piece of knitting, we have the stitches with the V pattern on, and that is created by purling every other row. Now with a normal knit stitch, like I've shown you, the right hand needle goes into the stitch from the front and then behind the left hand needle. So you can see with your knit stitch you're going in through the front and then behind. With a purl stitch, you're basically doing the same thing as a knit stitch but in reverse. So you will take your right hand needle and you'll come through the front of the stitch nearest to you, and then your right hand needle will be in front of your left hand needle. And then you'll wrap the yarn around again in between the two stitches, pull it onto the right hand needle and slide it off. So it's just like a knit stitch but in reverse. So let's try that again. I'm going to put the right hand needle through the front of the stitch in front of the left hand needle, wrap the yarn around from front to back in between the two needles, pull it through onto the right hand needle and slide that off the end of the left hand needle. So the right side with the V-shaped stitches is facing you.